I have to admit, I keep forgetting this show exists. Greetings and welcome once again to Roman of the Empire. I am your host, Roman. Today we are talking about Andor Episode 9, Nobody's Listening. You know, and for a show that I forget exists, it's actually a pretty good show. The writing this week was, I think, very good. If you'll remember, last week was the prison episode. Kaz is in the new scary prison. The floor is electrified when they want it to be at night. That's their means of keeping you in your cell. They electrify the floor. You step out, you get fried. And Dedra, the ISB agent, has Bix, Kaz's associate from Ferrix, in custody for questioning. That was pretty much the gist of last week's episode. This week we pick up exactly where we left off, and there were kind of, let's say, four major points to this episode, and we'll just kind of knock them out one by one. But again, the writing this week was just very good. They kept it very, very tense, and they really didn't let up on that, and it's quality work. I don't even have anything bad to say about it. There's nothing bad to say about this week's episode. I suppose it took too long to get to this part of the series. Honestly, if they just picked up with Kaz entering the prison and ignoring the earlier stuff, I probably would have been happier with that. It would have moved faster, but here we are. So Bix is in Dedra's custody, and she's going to torture her. And she goes through a really long version of, if you don't answer my questions, the doctor is going to do his thing. And we don't know what form of torture this is going to be yet. And basically, Bix is at the point where she's like, you're not going to believe me anyway, are you? And Dedra's like, no, I probably won't. And she gets this kind of sadistic smile. She's not a good person. She's very efficient. She's not a good person. And we get to the torture portion of it. And what they have done is there is some animal creature thing on this planet that the Empire needed to, I think they were setting up a mining operation, but they needed them eradicated. And they did. But the sound they make when they're dying, this screech, drove the Imperials mad. So they captured it, and now they use it for torture. So they put the headset on Bix, and it turns her into a whimpering, crying person. And they get the information out of her, because that's torture. Torture, you're going to tell them anything they want, but if you actually have information, you're probably going to tell them that too. That's pretty much the Bix portion of the show, and then they end up leaving her in the cell, and they're going to go hang some people because, example, this is on Ferrix, of course. Yeesh, wow. Then there's the Mon Mothma portion of the show. And this is part of what the title Nobody's Listening is associated with. It's kind of a twofer. She's speaking in the Senate, and literally the other senators are chiming out while she's giving her speech. And her speech is about the overreach of the Empire. The harsher penalties. Basically, you're going to jail for doing anything that the Empire doesn't agree with. Interesting concept. Now, they don't want to hear it. Security. Okay. But Mon's talking anyway. And like I said, everybody just kind of chimes out. And then she goes back to her apartment, house, place. And because her cousin is waiting for her. And we find out that her cousin is Vel. Vel, who ran, the operation where they robbed the Imperial payroll on Andori, or Andali. I think they may actually be cousins. she's, because Mon Mothma tells her to go out and, have fun, be the little rich girl that you're supposed to be. And she tries to get some information out of her, well, they start to talk about him being Luthen, of course. But, and she's like, well, how often have you actually met him? And Belle's like, who? Because she's, the best way to keep secrets is for everyone not to know everything. Mon also talks to her banker friend who's doing the money laundering. And the Imperials are going to start scanning bank accounts to find out where money is going. So even with their money laundering, the time is ticking away as to what they're going to get done. Not good. Things are not on the side of the rebels here. And then the most interesting part of the episode, we're back in the prison. And Andor is doing his thing. They're building their components, as the teams of 7, there's 49 men in the room working for the one guy, Kino in the instance of Andor's team. And top team gets rewarded, bottom team gets electrocuted. So Kaz was kind of a shell of himself at the end of the last episode. This episode picks up, the gears are working, and he's planning, he's plotting, he's watching. The new guy coming in is on the elevator, but the elevator clearly isn't electrified like everything else in the place. So that's a possible weak point. He's working on some, in the restroom area, sawing some pipe. I don't know what that's all about. But he's trying to talk to Kino about what he knows because he's been there a long time. He's like, how many guards are on each level? And Kino keeps telling him, shut up. You can't talk like this. They're in their barracks type cell. And Andor's like, this is the other half. Nobody's listening. They don't care what we say. They don't need to. We're expendable. We're cheaper than droids and easier to replace. All they have to do is shock us. They don't, they don't care what we're doing. We can't, punishment is death, essentially. Now, they're all lined up getting ready to go into their workplace, and there's a rumor starting to spread, and no one quite knows what it means. Something has happened on level 2 of this facility. And they know it's bad, but they don't know what it is, because the levels can't really talk. They have a hand signal thing they do from like level to level, but it takes a very long time for information to actually disseminate. There's an older fellow who's on their team. He's supposed to have 44 cycles left. And then he's free. Well, they're standing in line and he collapses. He hasn't been doing well most of the day. We could see that coming. And then he just flat out collapses. They clear the hallway except for Kino and Andor, who are attending to the guy waiting for the medical team to show up. The medical guy. He's another prisoner. He gets there, and they're trying to pump him for information because he has access to the entire facility. And he's also alluding that something has happened on level 2. And it kind of turns out that the old gentleman had a stroke. He's like, there's nothing I can do for him. And basically he puts him to sleep like you would a pet. Very sad. He's like, he's actually going to fare better than we are. And they're like, what do you mean? And the guard leaves for a moment to go get a cart and bag to get rid of the poor old man's body. And the medical guy tells them someone from level 4 was released. The next day he showed up on level 2, and word got out that he had been released and now he was back on a different level, like a shell game. And because they found out about it, they fried all of level 2. Everybody died. They killed them. And they come to the realization, both Kino and Andor, no one's actually ever getting out. They're there until they die. There is no 6-year sentence, no 2-year sentence. There is a life sentence. You're there until you die. This makes Kino rethink the escape plan, clearly. And Andor asks him again, how many guards are on each level? And Kino says, no more than 12. And that's pretty much where we close. tense. It was a very tense episode. And I think the last episode and this one have been my favorite of the series. Just really good writing. And again, I wish we'd kind of come into this. I would have been happier with a shorter series and this stuff rather than the real slow pace of episodes 1 through 6 with kind of a standout episode 4, which I'd mentioned previously. But these have been great. So if you're not watching the show, you can kind of watch the recap at the beginning of episode 8, and you're going to be up to speed. It's not real hard to figure out. It's not complicated, but it's worth watching. Oh, I forgot about Dedra and Karn. Remember last week, Karn was getting questioned by Dedra, and he shows up in front of the ISB. He wants to thank her because they believe the same thing, da-da-da-da-da. He's a freaking stalker. He's a weirdo, and Dedra is skeeved out by him clearly, and she's like, you keep this up, you're going to get arrested, and I will put you in a cage. So she's not having it, and he has revealed himself as being even weirder than I thought he was. So anyway, I forgot about the Karn part, and I didn't want to talk about that. So basically, no one's getting out alive. The Empire's coming for your money. Bix got toasted in her brain, and Karn's a freaking weirdo. That's this week's episode. Good visuals. I like the prison. I liked the way everything was shot this week. They've done a good job with the show. I keep saying that because it's true, and I don't get to say that kind of stuff enough. So that's it for now. This has been Roman of the Empire signing off. Please like and subscribe as the channel does need the help. Be kind.